on this call at 5:02 on a Friday afternoon, and on a very, very rainy Friday. And I think there's more rain coming over the weekend. But anyway, I appreciate people being willing to stay. And I know that at some point they probably will want to go home. So we don't need to take a count. I appreciate members being on. We have kind of a mixture of current chairs, and we have chairs that are coming on. So I guess I do not have an agenda because I did not call this meeting. So Councilman Rosenberg, is this your meeting? Do you have an agenda?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know that there are several members that had things that they wanted to have the opportunity to discuss. I would start with one matter that became a little bit less urgent with the governor's executive order extending us through the end of October. It was my hope that we'd be able to.
Yeah, say that again. Yeah, the governor's executive order.
We'd be able to do this without me unintentionally muting myself. That we'd be able to talk about what we need to do to further retrofit the chamber for us to come back in person, so that it's not a last minute scramble. But I think that we have a little bit more time before we, I think it's a discussion worth having. It doesn't necessarily need to be today if other people want to move on to other matters. But certainly doing a little bit more beyond what we've got, which I think works with less than a full house in there. But when that comes back.
Well, we had, Councilman Rosenberg, we had heard, this goes back to, I think, last week, we had heard that it was going to be extended. The governor's office had sent a message down, I think, to legal counsel for the mayor, and we got access to it that said it was going to be extended, so we weren't going to have to worry about it. I saw the actual executive order just came in this afternoon. Because we were waiting for it for another particular reason as well. So he extended, and I sent it to our John Cooper. And I read it a couple of times, but I need to actually look at it again. I know it extends through September, and then it looks like it extends through October, but the requirements are a little different. Okay. So anyway, I believe, and Mr. Cooper, you may want to chime in, I think it keeps us, allows us to meet through electronic means through the end of October, if I read that correctly.
I did not receive your email, and when I checked the governor's website earlier, it wasn't up, so I'll pull it up right now.
All right. I'm sorry, I thought I'd sent it to you, but maybe it just got lost somewhere in the mail. Anyway, I read it a couple of times. It looks like, I know we're good through the end of September, and also believe that we're good through the end of October. Yes. Councilman Rosenberg, I will tell you that there have been discussions about putting us in a much larger room. It was kind of strange that September 1st, which is our first meeting in September, the first Tuesday, fell on the 1st, which meant that we would be jumping into this right of way. But we were given a little bit of a heads up last week with the governor. At that point, we didn't have to worry about doing anything else. There is discussion about if we, at some point, if we do come back, moving into a much larger facility. So we've had some people looking at that. But in the end, we're watching the executive orders, and we want to keep everybody safe. And at some point, if the executive orders don't extend it, then we will take all necessary means, including, if we do have to come back into the chamber itself, getting some extra things and maybe putting some people in the back like we did the first time. But we'll be ready. We'll make sure that we keep people safe. Okay.
Great. I'll also just very quickly add that we had another meeting of the committee that's looking at the new legislative management information system this morning. The implementation is, Slade could probably speak to this if you wanted to, is moving along very well. And it sounds like we're going to be up October 6th with the new system, which is going to be great. It'll be in the chamber. Stuff will feed onto the web automatically. It'll have all of the stuff back to last term in its current in its first iteration, searchable. It's going to be fantastic, a lot more similar to what the state has now. So that's moving forward well, and I'll defer to whoever would like to speak next.
Okay. Next. All right, who wants to go next? I know that at some point I was going to let Councilmember Syracuse give us a little bit of information. He sent something out. I think, Jeff, you just sent it out to everybody just a little while ago on strategic planning. I will tell you that I guess Jeff had come to me last fall. This has gone back a while. Interested in more long-term strategic planning for the council. And so we talked about it, and then we talked about it again in the last couple of months. And the idea was that, particularly looking at a couple different angles. One was better utilization of the second floor. I know that sometimes it has been a real pain, particularly when we come back into the chamber, when we're back into the whole area. Our committee rooms are not that big, and so there's a question about whether we should be looking at whether we need to take a look at something like that. How does that all merge with the clerk's office? And then there's the question about long-term staffing needs. I know that many of you have been interested in that. And then the third thing was this idea, this notion of trying to reconfigure how our committees work in terms of when they meet. So one of the biggest issues that I think we've always had problems with is most of them are jam-packed on Tuesday when we're back in the chamber, and you're running in between meetings and people don't have enough time to figure out what's going on. So if you move them in some way to the week before and you have to figure out the deadlines and everything else, could the committees meet the week before, and could we actually have a consent calendar earlier, which could be posted, and then as much as I know all of you like to hear me read all the captions of those bills on the consent calendar, I'm looking at Councilmember Taylor. I know you just love me reading all those things over and over again. I personally would rather not do it. I think it would save a tremendous amount of time, and we might be able to do it on second and third. We got to figure out whether that's proper notice. We'd have to figure all that stuff out. But it allows, if we could do it that way, it allows you more time, first of all, in the committees and to look at different aspects of what the committee may be looking at. But also it may make our council meetings more efficient and effective, and allows you to spend more time actually looking at the stuff that really is going to be before us. So Councilmember Syracuse, if you're okay, I'll kind of turn it over to you for just kind of a brief explanation of what you're looking at.
Sure. Thanks, Vice Mayor. As Vice Mayor said, this conversation started last fall, and of course, tornado and pandemic stopped a lot of things. But the idea is that from a 30,000-foot perspective, if you think about it, as council members, we have 4 or 8 years to do the best we can to effectuate investment in our districts. But one of the things I think that council members, maybe as a coordinated effort, that we don't do enough is take a look at how we can best invest in the department that serves us. And I know we've all talked about through the years and whatnot, especially those that are in their second term now, about things that we want to look at, things we'd like to improve upon. And I don't think, especially as large of a body as we are, we're not going to be able to make those happen without a real intentional effort of a strategic plan, is kind of how I'm proposing it. And I'm looking at this from a 4-pillar approach, I guess you could say. One is, as Vice Mayor said, the HR perspective. The other is the second floor, the physical space, really everything outside of the council chambers. The third thing is technology, beyond the challenges that we've had inside the chamber, but really engaging council members about what are the needs that you have that the council staff and clerk staff could be more supportive of. And the fourth pillar is a more robust onboarding and training of council members. And we can talk about all the different specifics, but in order to get a scope of what I've proposed here, those are the four main categories. And you could think of a lot of things, like Vice Mayor just talked about, logistically, when we could have committees and how a consent calendar works. Those are all the things that could fit underneath one of those pillars. So if anybody has been involved before in strategic planning efforts in your day job or whatnot, as I have, I'd like to propose that we engage in this broader coordinated effort, if you will. And the idea is that we look at other like bodies, which hasn't really been done all that much, not in a very robust way, utilize best practices or whatnot. So in a nutshell, that's the proposal, and I'd love your support.
So thank you, Councilmember Syracuse. I know that when we've talked about it, I know some other people have expressed interest in different pieces of that. So if you're interested, talk to Jeff, okay? So obviously this is more of a long-range look, may have some short-term impacts, but talk to Jeff. All right.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah.
This is Councilwoman Henderson.
Yeah.
I apologize. I am joining by phone, and I missed the first minute or two. I think I joined about 6:02 or 6:03. So I apologize if I am out of order as far as how the rules of the meeting are going. Please let me know. I wanted to thank Councilman Syracuse, as you alluded to, Vice Mayor, and Councilman Syracuse as well. There are several of us that have been thinking about this for quite a long time and have made suggestions, both to Mike Jameson, to Mr. Cooper, to Ms. Hayes, to yourself, Vice Mayor. So while I appreciate that there is a new effort and we're moving forward in that regard, what about all the past suggestions, the past time that's been spent? Councilor Murphy has spent some time on it, Councilman O'Connell, Councilman Rosenberg, myself, Councilman Syracuse. Are you able to garner all that past input that we've given as to, all these points that you're hitting on, spatial organization, staff organization, a lot of thought and time and effort has gone into meeting with the Vice Mayor, meeting with Mike Jameson in the past, all to no avail. So as I'm sure you share, Councilman Syracuse, the frustration, and I appreciate you pulling it all back together and coordinating it. But I would just ask that, we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, because there's been a lot of people thinking about this, especially as second termers. So.
Good. Councilmember, I couldn't agree with you more. And the critical element of success to this is going to be successful engagement of all of us. So that I couldn't agree with you more. And I look forward to seeing and hearing about anything that you all have that would be part of that whole process. Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, and Councilmember Henderson, there is no agenda, so we're just kind of opening it up for anybody who's got particular questions.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I don't know if you can see hands. I've had mine up basically since Mr. Rosenberg concluded, so not sure.
I have no access to hands on this thing, so just it's all open.
All right, then I will take this opportunity to jump in. I guess for me, one of my interests in this meeting is one of our couple of elected chairs who doesn't really have a tremendous stake in the turnover at the moment. Is I know many of us who served last term observed that various chairs serve for various lengths of time, sometimes in conjunction with projects active in their committees. And I think this is a good opportunity to talk about a couple of things, I guess. One, just sort of the big picture item is, at one of our retreats late in the last term, you asked a question that I thought has really stuck with me, which is, what does this council want to be remembered for? And I don't think we've had a ton of opportunity as a body. We did have the retreat to kind of kick things off this term, but obviously COVID has made community discussions considerably more difficult, just coming together as a group. And I think revisiting that question with some seriousness is a good thing. I don't know that we're going to come up with a cohesive answer today, but I think it's something that I would encourage colleagues to think about. And then digging deeper into that, I think one of the ways, one of the tools at least that we have to work toward whatever the answer there is our committee process. And so we've kind of, as this term has gotten underway, we've had the special committees, sort of working over here. We've had at least a little bit of conversation about whether the standing committees have stood the test of time and need to be rethought. We've taken the ad hoc off of the affordable housing piece as just a minor nod to that. But then also just thinking through, I'd love some elaboration on your thinking of how and why we're returning to a process of 1-year terms for chairs, and then lead that maybe into the bigger picture conversation.
Sure. So, I served 8 years on the council under Ronnie Stein and Howard Gentry, and they were all 1-year terms. And I talked to a couple of people. I got a message from Diane Neighbors. I went back and checked 1-year terms. Talked to some folks that under Jay West, 1-year terms. David Scobie, 1-year terms. The only person who deviated from that was David Briley. And that was last term, and he did 2-year terms. When I served, the idea was that the chairmanships moved around. If you do it every year, more people get to serve in that capacity. Everybody's obviously elected. You want to be fair. You want to give other people a chance to serve. And the other benefit is particularly so I served 8 years as a district council member. I was chairman of 3 different committees. And some of them I had some knowledge of, some of them I didn't. And so I got a message from Diane Neighbors who said, it's good to move people around, which I believe in, because you want the council to have a lot of experience in a lot of different issues, because you're not just focused on one thing, you're focused on lots of different things. So, and again, the other benefit is that you give a lot more people the opportunity to serve. I looked at Briley's numbers. After 3 years, I think it had 26 people serve as a committee chair. And he would have, if he had stayed in the 4th year, that would have been it. The way we're doing it now, after we start next week, we'll have 26 people after year 2 who have served. And that will give many more people a chance to serve as chair. Don't worry about the first termers, because as you may remember, when 4 years ago or 5 years ago when we started, a number of first termers were picked right away to lead committees. So first termers, they've had a year under their belt. I picked veteran members to serve in the first year, so they should be up and ready to go. I also checked on something regarding vice chairs. That was also a Briley thing. If you go back to before, vice chairs are just the picks of the chairs. That doesn't mean that they're going to be automatically chairs. In fact, I looked at a couple of Diane Neighbors years, and like 2 vice chairs moved up the next year and 10 didn't. So it's all that stuff, a lot of the stuff that maybe the people who are coming back remember through Briley was never the way it was done. It was never done that way. I like it the 1 year because it gives people a much better chance to engage in the process. Now, what does the council want to be remembered for? Well, Freddie, that we try to figure out.
Vice Mayor, if we may, can we stick on the 1-year, 2-year term discussion? I appreciate that Freddie acknowledged that would segue into what do we want to achieve as a council, but I would like to stay on that topic a little bit longer, if we may. Can we take some comments and questions regarding 1-year terms and 2-year terms, vice chairs moving up versus not? Because I think there's many of us who would like to share our thinking on that in the spirit of making us an effective body, because just because something was always done a certain way doesn't mean that it was working well, respectfully. So I really appreciated the change as far as from an effectiveness standpoint and the continuity of a vice chair to a chair, making a vice chair a first-year council member so that they would have that opportunity. So I would maybe welcome some comments from some other folks so that you can hear from us as a collective body how we feel about it, because I appreciate that that's your opinion and you thought it was better in 1 year and everybody gets a turn. But I don't think necessarily that makes us an effective body, respectfully. So I would welcome anybody else to comment on that if you feel the same or you don't feel the same, either way. But I think, I think we need to talk about that some more, please.
Yeah, and Angie, I appreciate that. I think one of the things that I'm also concerned about is that COVID really disrupted our abilities.
Councilmember O'Connell, you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. I was my computer slowing down. Anyway, the COVID really interrupted this first year of council, and I worry that some of the, we've had particularly Public Works and Metro Water under that committee. I can say from the standpoint of the Traffic and Parking Commission, again, this is a slightly unique circumstance, but I suspect in public safety too, with the conversations we're having about policing and so forth, many committee members and many chairs have barely been able to engage in some of the issues they were charged with exploring this year. And so I think there's an element of, from a special circumstance standpoint, I have been a little uncomfortable about thinking about some of the committees that are underway that have been pretty deeply invested, built relationships with departments. And I know decisions are made at this point, but I think it is valuable to engage in this idea a little bit more.
And I think also we did not change any of the committees, right? I mean, from just my brief scan, at least for me, I don't have any new committees. I'm on the same one. So we could still have the continuity in that respect. Or am I the only one that has noticed the committee staying the same?
So, Councilmember Hancock, you're right. I made a few changes, but I think you stayed on your same committee. So that was part of it. Part of it, I would say, is that, you want council members. Again, this has been obviously a very difficult year with COVID, but it also, because people were at, everybody was encouraged to stay at home or stay safer at home. Committees just kept functioning. And so there were certainly things that you could do with all the different aspects going on. Gee whiz, it's more important for people to be more engaged in all kinds of different things. I'm really excited. I went back and looked at the numbers for the last 12 years because I didn't have them from before. This year coming up, we will have more women serve as chairs than ever I think maybe in the history of the Metro Council. We've got 7, which is pretty remarkable. After celebrating, last week with the passage of the 19th Amendment, good for the council. We also, thanks to Zulfat, first Muslim ever to serve as the head of a standing committee in the Metro Council, first time. And Sandra Sepulveda, first Latina ever to serve as a chair of a standing committee in the Metro Council. It's about time. So, as you know, I mean, as the second termers know, those first 4 years go by really, really fast. We're all in this together. Everybody was elected at the same time. You move people up quickly because we don't have time to wait. By the time you get to the end of the second year, you're past that. Now, one last thing I'll mention is that, in terms of the committees itself, and I know you mentioned different things about some of the things you're working on, but we had asked, if you may remember, we had asked for reports from the committee chairs at the end of July to give us kind of an update on where they were. I needed them from the standing committees and the special committees, which I really think were pretty good. Most of the chairs never turned in anything. Asked for it in early July and then asked again.
Vice Mayor, respectfully, that was at the bottom of an email that was about several other things. I knew nothing about that until another council member mentioned it to me and forwarded me the message. And so, I do think if there's a communication about that, and I am in the midst right now of preparing a report for Councilman Nash because I do want us to have a smooth transition. The challenge for me in selecting a vice chair, I spoke to all my committee members as we started the year to ask them what were their areas of policy interest, what was their personal experience, what did they want to work on. I asked Councilman Nash at that time, was he interested in serving in vice chair? Everyone's new to term. I get it. He declined. I made Councilman Young vice chair. And so then I subsequently CC'd Councilman Young on anything and everything all throughout the year so that he would be aware of the work that was going on in the background from an oversight perspective. And so, again, I hear you and I commend you. Our first Latina chair, our first Muslim chair, our first women, these are all very good things. But I think what we're all speaking about is the effectiveness of our body. And so I don't think everybody gets a turn, move everybody around a year. Again, respectfully, that's my opinion, having served 5 years. And I know that's awkward coming from me as somebody who's not going to continue serving. But I would welcome those chairs that are, elected to that 2-year term. I think, I wish we had given the Briley model a little bit longer of a try, especially in this year with the COVID impact for the Public Works Department in particular, Vice Mayor. The implications of the tornado on that department, they have had a leadership change. We have a new interim director who's just been present. And so, I don't think we necessarily should assume every year it has to be 1 year, every year it has to be 2 years. And so, I regret not getting you that report, but, I have CC'd you throughout the years on some of the things I'm working on. And I did reach out to you personally to say that I would like to continue serving, but if not, that I thought Councilman Young would be an able chair. And, you did not respond to me, Vice Mayor. So, it's frustrating for those of us who have been doing a lot of, process improvement, oversight work internal to our department. And again, we are all able, capable, elected folks. And I look forward to being helpful to Councilman Nash. But I would just ask you, please, to hear from other members, many of whom are, texting me now because I don't know, maybe they're embarrassed to speak up or, but that, I think there is merit in, looking at the circumstances of any particular committee or work and determining if that should be 1 or 2. Also, too, Vice Mayor, from having served for 8 years, we are extremely weak relative to the mayor, okay? And from an oversight perspective, in any particular past years, Vice Mayor Briley alluded to this, having served on the council with you previously. If they're really digging into something and trying to improve things, once they know that it's just 1 year and you're going to be out anyway, like that doesn't make us very effective because you're already kind of becoming a lame duck at the end of your year. And so having 2 years to be able to effectuate some deeper oversight work, I really do think is important because historically this body has not used our oversight function very well. Criticisms of the council when I first started to serve was, everybody's doing a little bit of everything and everybody's just, pushing paper through committee. That committee work, and it runs the gamut in how we as chairs approach our committee. Some people do just call the legislation, everybody vote, move on, but there's other work that can be done, but it takes time to do that work. And so, again, just because we've done something some way, I don't think means that, we should continue to necessarily do it that way. So, with that, I would again invite other members, if you feel like sharing, please do.
This is Councilwoman Kathleen. Kathleen Murphy. Sorry, I'm on.
Kathleen, who?
No, I had surgery, so I'm not exactly camera ready. I've got to follow up with kind of Vice Mayor, respectfully, what you and Councilman Syracuse brought up earlier in this meeting was, we need to change we need to have a strategic plan to make sure that we are being using our resources the most effective way possible. And, and I think that what that said, worse, he did continue chairs for a second term. Some people continued on 1 year, some were 2 years. I was a committee chair for 2 years. I will honestly tell you, coming in as a freshman and being a committee chair, while I knew how to run a meeting because of my day job, it was a little overwhelming. It was a big honor, but it was also a lot of pressure. And looking back, I probably would have been a more effective chair if it hadn't been my first year on council. But I did also appreciate having 2 years to really be able to follow up on and know what legislation was there. So I appreciate you not changing up the committees greatly, because sometimes it is hard to remember or be at every committee meeting we can be at. And so there's benefit. And you know, as your work at the legislature, the benefit of longevity. And so I appreciate the longevity that we'll have of our committee appointments, because I appreciate you following, and like I'm on the same committees I was on my first term, and that's been very valuable to me. But I think what we're hearing is that, you know, I think people are feeling like they're not being heard right now. And had we probably surveyed the committees, that we could have done this a little bit smoother. We could have communicated a little bit better. The fact that, and I appreciate many of my fellow colleagues congratulating me on my appointment for a second year, and I had to remind them that they actually appointed me last year for 2 years, right? And so I think that's indicative of that all of us have been under a lot of pressure. COVID doubled down on our responsibilities and the hardships, not just in our personal and professional lives, but communicating with our constituents. We've had a hell of a year, and stability is something that we all need. And I think that we could do stability as a council better than we're doing right now. So, you know, I think that, well, I will follow the lead and work with whoever you appoint, because that is your role as vice mayor. I think that right now people just feel they aren't being heard, and that the council is in more turmoil than it needs to be.
Well, and I appreciate your comments, and I know that Councilmember Syracuse is probably taking notes like I'm just listening. And so I understand it's one of those things that it may come with more of a strategic look at how often we meet. It was certainly difficult over the last 6 months to try to pull everybody together because of the pandemic. And I know everybody's been busy. Councilmember Murphy, I know your schedule. I know how busy you can be. Just trying to get ready for these meetings has taken a tremendous amount of time. It's so much more difficult with, you know, the pandemic. So, yeah, I mean, I'm listening and understand about the need to communicate. You know, at one point, I think I was going to try to do it every week. It's just almost impossible. But I'll take a note, and, you know, I know you'll be back. I know Freddie will be back as chairs next year. And we're always looking for ways to improve.
Congratulations, Freddie.
Yeah. So, yeah, Freddie is.
Thank you.
Freddie's traffic and parking. He serves the second year, and Kathleen Murphy serves the second year as planning.
Yeah, I'm also not camera ready, but here I am. And I think, you know, talking about the chairs that have been appointed for the next term, I think there's exceptional chairs there. Thought it was interesting that some were not chairing committees that they were on, but nevertheless, I mean, so that's not what I think, at least where my concern lies. Like you said, last term, there were some first termers who chaired committees. I think it's about that continuity, especially like you just mentioned, how difficult it's been to pull people together. I know the charter committee was going to be doing several things that ended up being blown up by COVID. I know the education committee chair was working on putting things together that got blown up by COVID. And I just hope that, you know, I think it's important for everyone to know that being a committee chair is not just, you know, doing the stuff on the agenda, and that there are other opportunities. And I hope that everybody moving forward will take the opportunity and have the time and opportunity to, you know, really make council more relevant and better serve the city by digging into a lot of issues that we've not really played a substantial role in. And the more of that continuity and I just found I don't agree that it's everybody gets a turn type thing. I think that we need to put forth the best leaders we can to serve the city, especially at this kind of critical time. But really, I just hope that we can, moving forward, this next round of chairs, folks coming in now, have the time and opportunity and to really get done some important things that need to happen moving forward.
Well, and thank you, Councilmember Rosenberg. I think your points are well taken. I would do want to get back to something that Councilmember O'Connell said about what to be remembered for. Councilmember O'Connell, yeah, I mean, I've been through different, meetings and retreats with council, and we're always trying to figure out what do we want to be remembered for, and then we never seem to get there because everybody gets busy and we don't focus. Now, typically, and I've told a number of council members this, usually after the first year, we would all go have a retreat. We'd go someplace and we would sit down and kind of talk through, what was good, what was bad, blah, all those different things. Obviously, we can't do that. And it's been very difficult, particularly in the first year of a council, to try to get people to get to know one another. I used to say that the National League of Cities Conference was one of the best ways to do it because council members were kind of stuck together and you got to know people who you didn't really know all that well. And so there's talk about trying to figure out how to do that in a pandemic world. I'm not sure how to do it. I don't know if you can have Zoom calls with different people and you kind of match, 3 or 4 people up and you have it and you let people learn from each other and get to know each other better. It works for a much more cohesive council. This has been really, really difficult. And I know it has. I know, I know the stress has been great. So we're thinking about doing that. I will tell you that I've had several conversations with the mayor. The feeling that I get from being around and from talking to different people is that, look, it has been stressful and difficult, not only on you, but on the general public in Nashville. So one of the things I've been throwing kind of at the mayor to think about are ways that we as a body all together can do things to make the city feel better about where we are. Now, obviously, we have work to do with legislation and everything else, but we're working through this, and I've talked to some other people, and I think Gloria Hauser's on the phone, and Councilmember Hauser, I hope you're feeling better. She's been, not COVID, but she's sick. But the idea of putting some things together where we can start trying to function, even if it's remotely, as something where we're actually doing things to make, to maybe help bring everybody out of this thing, that we're suffering through. Everything from, so we've already started, the Bookham folks have talked to us about getting engaged at the end of September. That's about giving books to kids. That's a good thing. I know I talked to Councilmember Hancock. The Veterans Caucus is going to help us with the 9/11 program in September. There is an effort being made with the elections coordinator to try to help get information out so people understand all the nature of what's going on with the election. It's maybe this year spending some time not only worrying about our legislation, but also trying to figure out ways to do good. So in a time where there is so much stress, and I know we have national elections coming up, and I worry about that, and then I worry about that we're getting ready to go into the fall and winter when people get more depressed typically anyway. This is where all of us, whether you're a chair or not a chair, doesn't really matter to me. This is where together as a body, we are going to have to pull together and do some stuff together to make things, to kind of help pull the city through. We got a ways to go with this thing. We got some work to do.
Vice Mayor, this is Pulley. I wonder if I could weigh in just very briefly on some of the things that have been said. So there are good points made both ways, I think. I appreciate my colleagues' comments about the 2-year versus the 1 year. And I think there are good points on both sides. So I'm really kind of caught in the middle on that argument. With respect to vice chairs being elevated, I think one of the things that if we're going to go down that path, we need to understand is the vice mayor is elected to appoint committee chairs. And effectively, what you do is if we're elevating, and there were a number of great vice chairs this time around, but if those are automatically elevated, the vice mayor then loses that ability to appoint chairs. So respectfully, I'm not in support of committee chairs basically determining their successor. But I do want to say I heard some comments about council oversight and things of this nature, and it's certainly my position that one of the best ways we could improve our ability to do that is to create a committee structure whereby, and I know many have alluded to this and many have wanted this change, but once we can figure out how we can structure our committees to where they can meet, as you suggest, at odd times, and I think we could hold more effective committee meetings where we're not being held to a 15-minute time frame and we're not pulled in several committees at the same time. And effectively what that leads to is having committee meetings on the council floor, the kinds of discussions which really should be held in committee that we're now holding on Tuesday night at the council meetings. So I think once we figure out a way to restructure our committees to where we can meet independently and have enough time to sort through our issues, that's where I think it becomes a game changer with respect to our oversight. So those would be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Councilman Pulley. I agree that vice chair shouldn't automatically be elevated. I think it should be part of the hypothetical discussion with the outgoing chair as it moves on. And I would just note that the vice mayor's power to appoint committee chairs comes from our rules and not from charter or ordinance or anything. But I appreciate like the way you as a committee chair, you did, with our meetings in public safety being so brief on Tuesdays, you called meetings during off times, special meetings to get into some of those topics and make sure that public safety had the opportunity to look at some things. And that's something that I definitely encourage chairs to look at as a model moving forward.
If I could jump in, I think those are some excellent points that have been made. One thing that I struggled with in education is, we don't have a lot of legislation to come before the council. And there were times during the term where there may have been information that I wanted to share with the committee, but it really wouldn't necessitate a full meeting. If there's 5 or 10 minutes worth of information to share with the committee, but we can't have a meeting on Tuesdays if we don't have legislation before us. So it just felt that it wasn't a good use of time to have a specially called meeting, especially when we were still in person, to have a specially called meeting for 10 minutes of information sharing or for a 15-minute conversation, asking people to come down to the chambers. That just didn't seem like a prudent use of time. So I think that, going forward, if we could have more discussion around what that looks like and when chairs are wanting to meet, but there's no legislation before them. It is very unfortunate the way that COVID has impacted all facets of our life, but especially some of the work that we had intended to do on council. That is very frustrating. And, there were plans to partner with the school board this year for the education committee and the school board to work more closely together, actually starting in March. And unfortunately, when the tornado and coronavirus hit, that opportunity no longer presented itself. So hopefully moving forward, the two bodies will be able to, work more closely together. But one thing I think would be important is to have a conversation around what is the purpose of the education committee. We have a school board currently. Right now, the only thing that council does with education is approving the budget for MNPS, and we don't have a lot of legislation regarding education. So I think that if there is appetite, I know I had an appetite for more robust dealings with that particular committee, and if there's an appetite for that, I think it will be helpful to have some conversations around the direction that we want the committee to go in.
All right. So I'm taking notes, and Councilmember Porterfield, I appreciate that. Other comments?
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Suara?
Yes, sir. Honored for the appointment to serve on the committee. But what I wanted to add, just listening to what everybody is saying, is that I think we're very limited in how we do business anyway. I think it would be lovely for me to be able to learn from people in committees that I'm not even a part of, even before we get on the council floor. And I think that's part of what is missing. And Councilmember Porterfield talking about having to share a document that we cannot do within 30 minutes. I think those are part of the limitation of this job. I want to report that we did have our first IT task force meeting, and that is progressing. I'm hoping that based on that committee and the conversation, that we get to a place where we have a platform where we can actually share information and share ideas outside of the committee with each other. I think that will empower all of us and will make all of our meetings, smoother. So that's what I'm hoping to get. I'm not in public safety, but I would like to know what's going on there. I'm not in planning, but they do a lot of good stuff. I think that's how we're going to be able to collaborate better. So I just want to put that plug in to my committee members. We're working at. We'll be getting back to everyone, and I hope that we can build that. And I think that will enhance the way that we do business. So thank you.
All right, good for you. Councilmember Syracuse, sounds like we may want to meet faster about this, trying to, I hear a lot of background noise, trying to figure out if the committees can meet on a different day, because based upon what Councilmember Suara said, she might want to go to public safety, but she can't do that now based upon the way we do this. And that's been a problem for a long time. So anyway, other comments?
Yes, this is Councilmember Hurt. Yeah. And I wanted to say that the coronavirus actually did wonders for the health committee. Because there was a standard meeting held on Thursdays where things were discussed in regards to the coronavirus. And there were more calls and comments on there from council members outside of the committee, which I thought was great. And we always had robust conversations. And it was really, really good. And sometimes there were long meetings and sometimes not. So I think if it is structured, it probably could be a very effective way of making sure that the committees are in place. And prior to me getting on the council, it was my understanding that they had problems with attendance of people attending the committee meetings. So I think the reason why they changed to make sure that those committee meetings were held before the council meeting was to make sure that people were attending. Right. So I am for effectiveness and continuity, and I know that my successor for health and hospitals is going to be awesome because he's just an awesome guy. But I would like to recount things because to me, this has been the most turbulent experience. And Lord knows I have much to do and I don't need another thing. So me believing any council chair or committee appointment is perfectly fine with me because I already have something waiting to fill that position. But for us to be on the council, especially the second termers, we got on the council and shortly within 6 months or maybe 3 months, we had a change in District 1. Then we came back, and I guess about 6 months after that, we had another change in District 1. Then we had a change in District 33 because Sam Coleman was moved off and became a judge. And then after that, we had Karen Johnson move out of her district, and she became a Register of Deeds. And then we came back and had Nick Leonardo moved from council District 1 again and had someone come in that position. Then we had our vice mayor change because our mayor, and then the vice mayor changed, and then the vice mayor changed again because we had to have an election for that, and then we had another mayor and all of that. So in terms of the continuity and the effectiveness, I think we need some stability. I think that in order for us to be effective, there has to be some stability. It took me a while to learn exactly what it is that I need to do and how I need to do it. And even now, I'm not exactly sure of what I need to, how this bill should be and whether I need to do this, that, and the other. So it takes time. And I don't want us to be seen as an effective body of council members. I really to see us working hard, and we've had some great challenges for sure. And with that in mind, I just hope that those who are in positions are in the positions. I know you said that we want to do some good, but I think we want to do right. And I think that if we do right, and people are doing it for the right reasons, then that will speak for itself. And when people are not, and they don't behave the way that they should, that's becoming for a council member, I think that that needs to be addressed. I think that when things are not going the way that they should, we have to have that decorum that you spoke of. And it has to be addressed. And sometimes it may be difficult and challenging and hard, but we've got to step up and do those hard things in order to make sure that it is the right thing to do.
Well, thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilmember Hurt. I was scared after you went through all that you were going to announce that you were going someplace or whatever. Fortunately, in the first year, we haven't had that type of transition. I don't think anybody's left. And you're right. The last term, there was a lot of movement going on. So we do have stability because people are here, and we are the legislative body of Nashville. We do have responsibilities. I like the do right, so I add that to the do good. That's fine. And you know, I count on all of you. Councilmember Hurt, you know that I count on you. You know, we all have responsibilities and we all have to step up. So anyway, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that.
And then, Mr. Vice Mayor, I know we're coming up on an hour here. I don't know how long people are going to stick around for this, but I do think it is imperative that we spend just a little bit of time maybe getting to an understanding, knowing that we might very well be meeting virtually. At least a number of us might be meeting virtually through the end of October. We have really struggled to pull together a meeting that operates without technical difficulties, and more and more in Metro seems to be getting to the point where they can do this. And I am hearing about it from an increasing number of constituents, sort of people who pay attention to Metro, when audio goes out, when we have to wait for an hour to start the meeting, et cetera. I don't know if we're getting to a point where we are smoothing some of this out, if we need to change what we're doing, if we need to relocate from the council chamber, if that's causing some of the issue. I don't know if there's an update that we can get here.
Well, yeah, and you may have missed the first part of it. We actually have people looking at whether we move outside the chamber. We have to be in a city building. So we've got people looking at that. We've got another couple of months to deal with it. The last two meetings, and I think Keith Durbin had responded to a letter or an email that you wrote, so he gave you kind of an update. Last two meetings seem to have gone much better. There was, I think, efforts by maybe you, by Councilmember Rosenberg, by other people. I sent a note over there, Mr. Cooper did, to IT to say we can't do this anymore. We can't have one person there, and from an IT standpoint, and people switch not being in the right place or whatever. They have to get this straight. Last two meetings I think have gone pretty well. Can always be better. We're waiting for everybody to get back in the chamber because we'll have a new system up, but we'll keep working on it. I know we have been over it a number of times. Mr. Cooper has too, and we just keep staying on their backs. Same thing. You're certainly welcome to keep throwing ideas at them, and hopefully, just like everything else, we'll get through this next couple months, and then we'll be better off at the end. Okay. It is 5:57. I think we had it from 5 to 6. I know we've got a lot of some IT and Metro people that are kind of hanging with us until we finish. Anything at the last that you want to say? I appreciate the meeting. I took some notes. I appreciate you sending information, and I would really ask everybody to keep working together. The new chairs will take office on Tuesday, but they count on everybody and to make this work. And if you've got ideas for the do right and do good year, I think we're all struggling. Everybody is. We're part of that group that has to kind of step up and help. And any ideas like that, any new things you want to do, that'd be great.
Vice Mayor, I have a very quick suggestion.
Sure.
I think it'll be really helpful, and you may not know this information today, but I think it will be really helpful to know at the beginning of the term if the expectation will be to serve for 1 year or 2 years. That way, the chairs have the ability to properly plan out whatever projects it is that they want to work on.
So I'll tell you right now, it's 1 year. Okay. So, what we do with that is that you get in and start moving. So that's okay. You start from the very beginning and you work hard because there'll be 1 year terms. Okay. Councilmember Porterfield, particularly, I remember as we end this meeting, you and I walking through Una Elementary. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Remember that? I think we both had wheelbarrows. We were taking school supplies into those kids in the third grade.
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether the kids were back in school, at that point, but I thought that was a really good thing for us to do. I know the council did it. We were involved in it. We'll see if they go back. Even if they're in school, they may need school supplies. So it is worth something. So, Councilmember Porterfield, I'm telling you to remind me that we need to look at that around the holidays. Okay. Okay. Anything else before we break for the end of the day? All right. I appreciate everybody being on the call. Thanks for the time. Thanks again, Metro staff for doing this for us. It is 6 p.m. You all have a great weekend, and Councilmember Syracuse, you have a lot of work to do, so get busy, okay? No, everybody be safe, stay healthy, have a great weekend, be safe again, because I know not only we got COVID, but I know we got a lot of rain coming. And we'll see everybody next week. All right, thanks everybody.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.